Try and bring you a classical chair.
Yeah. Are you going?
We're good? Okay.
My son.
It's 5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started with this meeting of the Gallatin. We'll go ahead and get started with this meeting of the Gallatin Municipal Planning Commission, a work session meeting for Monday, July 3rd, 2023. Beginning with tonight and all meetings hereafter, we will have a public comment at the beginning of the meeting for any of the items on this evening's agenda. So in the future, we'll have a sign-up sheet we didn't tonight. So is there anyone who would like to speak on any of the, in regards to any of the 16 items we will be discussing at tonight's work session? And if you will, please state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Jason Morlock, 4611 Robin Lane, Nolensville. On the townhome project, it looks like it's St. Blaise Townhomes. This is just a question for when the item comes up. The tree line that's between the townhomes and Kennesaw Farms, just want clarity if all of those existing trees will be removed as a part of the project. I wanted to ask now.
Are you asking about, is it item number 10?
I believe that's it.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask now because I thought this was the only opportunity.
Certainly, certainly. You wanted, and if you would repeat the question, I'll cut you off there in the middle.
The tree line between Kennesaw Farms and the townhome project, will all of those existing trees be removed as a part of the townhome project?
Between Kennesaw and the townhomes.
Townhomes, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on any of the items tonight? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and we'll proceed with item number 2, which is Sky House Townhomes, a final master development plan. Who's presenting this item?
This item was deferred by the applicant earlier today.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 3, which is Patriot Angels Wedding Venue, an amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan.
Jim Carpenter, staff planner. The owner and applicant could not attend this meeting. They emailed me earlier today. So I think it would probably be most beneficial for the discussion to kind of table this until August when they can attend, or at the next available work session.
Are they okay with it being delayed in your absence?
Yes.
The only thing I would add is I would recommend them or their consultant get with the engineering department to discuss the driveway spacing.
And Mayor, just you weren't here at the last week's meeting. We deferred the item. It was on last month's agenda for the regular session, and we deferred it because the applicant was not able to be in attendance.
Yeah, it's fine. I just didn't know if they were, sometimes people can't attend and they're in urgency for it to continue proceeding. So I just wanted to make sure they were aware that it would delay until they were available.
There's still a number of conditions to kind of work through with this one, so I think they want to have the discussion with the commission to go over some of them.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then we'll look forward to hearing from them in 3 weeks.
Thanks, Jim.
Item number 4 is Laurelwood Park, amended final master development plan and final master development plan.
Emily Lang, staff planner. This is an amended preliminary master development plan and final master development plan for Laurelwood Park on 25.28 acres, zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district, located south of Drivers Lane and east of SR 109. The applicant deferred after the May Planning Commission work session meeting and is back this month to discuss newly submitted architecture. Comments from the previous cycle in May include staff asking for more detailed FMDP level drawings for some sheets, such as the site layout and landscaping plan, as well as some missing sheets like a drainage plan. The new architecture that was submitted.
Thank you. If we have a representative for the applicant.
Yes, sir.
Cal Gentry Civil Land Company. We're in agreement with all the staff comments. Just wanted to get some feedback from the commission on adding a secondary architecture style. This is a two-car garage where the original approval was a single car. Wanted to ask for some feedback on the elevations themselves as well as just to ask that we have the flexibility to do one car, two car, or a mix of both.
Cal, is this for all of the units in there or just one section, one building?
It'll be for all. We have four, if you'll recall, four single-family and the rest townhomes. And it'll be either this architecture, the original architecture, or a mix of the two.
So this does significantly increase the concrete footprint in front of the buildings, doesn't it?
Yes, sir, the driveway would be wider.
Questions?
So there'll be either two car or one car,
Yes, ma'am.
depending on the size of the home?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But we're still staying at that 28 to 30-foot wide lot. We're not dropping
Right.
down to a real narrow lot.
I don't love how that much garage looks. I really think that makes for better development because we've had so many issues with street parking and, when you don't have room in the driveway, and if you've only got a one-car garage, that really limits you. So I think it probably makes for a better
I would agree.
living
I think
situation amongst the neighbors.
it provides more options as well.
Any other discussion or questions, feedback? We'll see it back in 3 weeks.
Thank y'all.
Item number 5 is 1714 and 1750 Hartsville Pike, annexation and plan of service. This item's been deferred, is that correct?
Yes, deferred by the applicant.
Item number 6 is Sunset Farms, Holland property, and annexation and plan of service.
Yes. The owners of the subject properties are requesting annexation of any portion of their property not previously included in the 1965 annexation of the north side of Gallatin. When this area was originally annexed, the western boundaries of the annexation area followed a straight line and not the creek. This is south of the new West Albert Gallatin extension to kind of give you some context here. With the annexation of the Nexus development in 2020, which did follow the creek, 3 gaps appeared between the original city limits and the creek. When potential developer interest in the overall Holland property prompted due diligence research, this gap was brought to the property owner's attention. The owners of the Holland property would like to rectify this and fill in their portion of the gap. And that's what you see in the hatch pattern. The majority of the property petitioned for annexation is located within the floodplain creek bed, and no rezoning or PMDP has been formally submitted at this time. The planning staff is also requesting the inclusion of a small portion of West Albert Gallatin Avenue in this annexation request to fully include the entirety of that road within city limits. And the city is acting on behalf of the property owners for this annexation. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, this obviously makes sense. It's just an isolated pocket. But when you say the city's operating or making the request on behalf of the property owner, I assume you mean the property owner signing off on this and
There's a letter, I believe, in the packet that they are requesting annexation of any portion of their property not already within city limits.
They are supportive, and we thought this was kind of a good compromise because it wasn't recognized that all of their property wasn't in the city. And so I think the tax assessment had been done on the entire parcel. And so all these years, which, we don't even have the ability to make right if they were asking that, they've been paying on all that as if it were in the city, so.
Oh.
I guess that's really neither here nor there. It makes sense at the end of the day, and so.
Yes, they have requested it formally in a letter.
Any discussion or questions? Pretty procedural. Well, if none, then we'll see it back in 3 weeks. Item number 7 is 261 Hutch Court, an accessory structure, site plan.
Yes, this is for a 400 square foot hobby shed to go in the rear of someone's property. This is located in the Enoch Hills subdivision. This is coming to you primarily because it is one of the prefab sheds with the plastic vinyl siding. The colors match the home. There are other smaller ones in the neighborhood, but this is only about 400 square feet. We don't have big concerns about it, but this neighborhood's predominantly brick, so that's why it's come before you.
Okay. Do we have a representative for the applicant or the applicant themselves?
Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Bowman. I'm the property owner. So basically, what we're looking at is a he shed. About the size of a two-car garage, place for woodworking, painting, you know, just kind of a place to putz around in my retirement.
I'm looking at this correctly, you already have the approval from your HOA.
Yes, that's true.
What do the neighbors think?
Yeah, that answers.
What do the neighbors say?
I haven't gotten any,
Oh.
I just talked to one on the way over here, and so we were kind of familiar with it. The other ones just moved in about a week or so ago, so I haven't really built a relationship with them yet. But 2 doors down is a smaller shed, a garden shed that almost matches that color, you know, other than being smaller.
Not in brick, it's not brick?
No, it's not brick at all. It's,
Most sheds like this are too small for building permits,
Yeah,
and so that's why there's already some in this neighborhood. This one's just big enough for a building permit.
got it.
Well, this whole process came about because, or to handle situations where HOAs had expired. So CJ's question answers it all. If you have an answer, if you have an approval from your HOA, I have no questions.
Yeah, this will be really easy.
okay.
We'll see you back in 3 weeks. Shouldn't be a
right.
problem. Thank you.
Get my tools ready. Thanks a lot, I appreciate it.
Item number 8 is Freedom Church, abandonment and vacation.
Emily Lang, staff planner. This is for an abandonment of a City of Gallatin right-of-way for acquisition by Freedom Church on a portion of a .19 acres located adjacent to 1010 Freedom Church Road. The right-of-way is no longer needed since an alternate entrance was created to the church with the development of Kensington Downs from Grandstand Boulevard. Staff had minimal comments.
Thank you, Emily. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Jim Harrison, CSTG. We are working on this on behalf of Freedom Church and Pastor Terrell. This is really just a remnant of right-of-way that was part of the leftover process of relocating Freedom Church Road to provide safe transportation into the neighborhood. Just here to answer any questions.
Again, this is really procedural. Any questions or comments?
Straightforward.
I think it's great. We'll see you back in 3 weeks. I'm sure it won't be a problem. Item number 9, Northfield Church Addition, amended preliminary master development plan.
Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval of an amended PMDP for the Northfield Church remodel and expansion located at 2100 Nashville Pike. This amendment would create a preschool and an office building addition to the site. Planning had minor comments, just wanting to ensure that some of the ADA requirements are going to be met for parking and sidewalk, as well as the removal of the landscape buffer in the southern portion on the right-of-way. And these are this is a phasing, and they did include some elevations here for both of the additions.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Bill Jacoby is coming up. He with Northfield Church. Jillian, do you know if that other part of the presentation, that other PDF is up there? We're going to walk through some things, just to kind of give an outline of what's going on at the church and what this is all about, kind of how we got to this process first. So Bill's going to walk through that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Jacoby with Northfield Church. I wanted to give you a quick update on some of the stuff that we've done recently with Planning Commission and the purpose for our minor adjustments in our PMDP. Most of you know Northfield's been around about 13 years. Back in 2015, we bought the old College Heights property, upgraded it to Northfield Church. Since then, I'd say we've been very blessed with tenfold increase in participation in the church. We're up to around 3,000 now. So a lot of our planning that we're coming forward in PMDP is to facilitate that growth and also make sure it fits well with the area that we're in. Next slide. The main things that we do in the community right now are really fivefold. We have our Easter egg hunt, we have our trunk or treat, we have our Night to Shine, then we have our 2 programs around Christmas time. All of those events have about 3,000 to 4,000 people from the community involved in them. Each of those events are not only open to the community, but sourced from around the area. So we have lots of people coming, going on our property. So a lot of the stuff that we're talking about today is to make the property even more accessible in and out when we have these events. Next slide. Just some background on what we've done together. Back in 2021, we did a PMDP with you all. It was really the first PMDP that Northfield Church had on file. The approval for the property included things like alternative architecture. We were approved for that. It included a sidewalk from Pilot View all the way down to Gordon Crossing in the entry of our property. It included about 3 new buildings, which is new construction of about 80,000 square feet, the addition of a sewer on the north side of Nashville Pike all the way up to our property for all the properties along that side of Nashville Pike, and then the beginning of the sprinkling of our buildings. The first 2 phases that we've implemented since the PMDP that went into place were the opening of our new Sumner Center in 2021, and then in here just a few weeks, we'll open up our accessible play area and our pickleball courts, which we've worked on, both projects we worked on in collaboration with the city. Next slide, please. The Sumner Center and Playground, as I mentioned, since we opened up the Sumner Center, we've served over 450,000 meals to people in the community that are in need or have food insecurities. That's done primarily on the corner of Dorothy Jordan and West Eastland on Wednesdays, and then 1 Saturday per month with our food boxes. And then, thanks to some work with Mayor Brown and Governor Lee, we received a grant to open up our dental clinic, which is inside of the Sumner Center for free dental services for community members. It's open Mondays, Tuesdays, and every other Friday now. So it's been a real great success to have that open and serving some of the areas of our community that are either not fully supported by other nonprofits or, in the case of dental, not supported at all. So that's been a great success. And then when we open up our accessible playground, that's completely accessible to people of all abilities. We actually worked with Mary Garkey when she was with the city to take some of the best elements of the fantastic play area that you guys have Miracle Park here in Gallatin, and then the pickleball courts with David Brown. So it's been really a great project. We're looking forward to getting that opened, I hope, the first week of April, or first week of August. So as far as our minor changes to our PMDP, a couple of principles that we use. First and foremost, it would be completely consistent with what you all agreed to with us in our 2021 PMDP, things like alternative architecture and the same percent materials that you approved for us, the sidewalk from Pilot View down to Gordon's Crossing, and then also the inclusion of the, I'll say, the utility expansions that we need with both sewer and sprinkling. What we're trying to accomplish with this minor adjustment is really 4 things. First, a better utilization of our existing facilities. We found some ways to better utilize some of the space that we already have that will reduce the amount of square footage that we'll actually need to build and the height of what we'll have to build. So hopefully that's a good thing for you all. Secondly, we've worked to get the architecture to be a little more contemporary and a little bit more consistent with the alternative architecture that we were approved for. Third, the phasing of the approaches is going to be a little bit different. We found that it's very difficult to expand a worship space that exists and take care of those same number of people while you're doing that. So our new plan, when you see the phases that Jim will take you through, addresses that need. And then last but not least, the grades of the land and how our traffic comes in and out of Nashville Pike has been a challenge with traffic backing up all the way down to Big Station Camp. So we relooked at the grades and the way the land is laid out to give us a better flow of traffic in and out that I think will help quite a bit on Nashville Pike, particularly in the middle of either a Sunday or a lot of the big events that we have once a quarter. So as part of that, we retained a new design firm and architecture group that's based in Nashville. and they're a design builder, so both parts of their business are based here in Nashville, which we think is a real big help. They were the ones that just finished the big project at Long Hollow Church, which looks fantastic, the Legacy Park in Long Hollow, and they're also doing the project down at Journey Church in Lebanon. So they're real familiar with the area, and we felt that was a real big positive. So, okay, so I'm going to turn this over to Jim.
So, can you go to the phasing diagram by chance? I think it's back in the main sheets. One of the things that Bill talked about in this phasing diagram that you see on the screen really shows what we're trying to do is progressing through the site, and we're staging things. The green areas up to the north end are the playground areas, the accessible playground that Bill talked about. One of the comments, we've located additional ADA parking up there specifically for that playground. We're doing that now. That's one of the reasons that's kind of shown up there. We have taken a look at the campus from an overall standpoint, from an ADA standpoint, and you have to provide overall ADA standards, but you also have to provide for individual uses, such as there's ADA spaces out in front of the existing Sumner Center. So we're taking care of all that. We will also, staff had a comment about the buffers. We're going to honor all those buffers. And there was a comment about moving some of the trees out of the right of way. We're going to take care of that as well. But what shows on this phasing diagram is the pinkish color that's around the left side of the building, or the west side of the building, shows the preschool and the parking reconfigurations and a front entry that's going to look much nicer, provide a better lobby. And then you go through the more future phases that you have are when the sanctuary happens, which I'm colorblind. I think that's kind of a peach color, and which shows in the middle of the existing buildings, and then the parking leading off to the east. And then further out into the future is just that last phase, which shows in yellow, which is really unchanged from the previous plan. One of the things that we did work really hard to do is there's an existing stream. I don't know if I call it a stream. It's a channel drainage way, which has trees around it. We're going to preserve that in the middle of the campus and work to preserve that. So really, largely, what this is just a further enhancement of what we had on the previous plan that shows step by step how we're going to progress through the construction and also be able to conduct the business of a church at the same time, with having church services and having adequate space for people to have a sanctuary to sit in and not have it under construction at the same time. So the bottom line is we're going to make adjustments. We really don't have any problem with staff comments. We're just going to clarify those things, and wanted to be here to answer any questions that you have. Some of what you say, the last thing I'll say is that this parking and everything has been carefully checked to make sure that we're going to have adequate space for a number of parking relative to the sanctuary and for our full build out. And actually, the really last thing I'll say is Visioneering, the architecture firm that we're working on with this, does a phenomenal job of taking existing campuses with a lot of different buildings that are built at different times and bringing them together to make a nice, cohesive overall facility. So just here to answer any questions.
So the current worship center will be different than what it is currently?
The new Phase 3 worship center will be that peach color, which is right behind the current worship sanctuary, basically, the auditorium.
So that will be a lot larger than what is
It will be very similar. We've got that in the parking data. It will be bigger, but we've got adequate parking on the site to meet that criteria for those services. There's parking that expands in that peach area off to the lower right, Eileen. There's additional parking on that peach color area. I hope I'm calling that the right color.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions. My comment is that I think this is a tremendous improvement from a traffic standpoint. I mean, I've gone to the Easter egg hunts. I've gone to pretty much every event y'all put on, and the ingress egress for the parking lot will be a huge win for everyone.
I think the plans are very impressive. I'm excited to see where y'all go next. My
Yeah.
goodness.
I think the building looks fantastic. Yeah.
The, yeah, a lot of positives to say about it. The only question I had is it shows in the Peach section on the parking improvements, it shows the sidewalk along Nashville Pike. It doesn't show a sidewalk along the left half. Will there be continuity of sidewalk?
That sidewalk that's on the east side along the Peach area matches what was in the 2021 PMDP. So we haven't changed that. That's still consistent with what was approved at that time.
So there will be a sidewalk running the rest of the way, like above where it says Nashville Pike, that section where it shows like.
There's not a sidewalk as part of this master plan to the west. And largely what's to the west is Rogers Group, which is the quarry property.
Yeah, the 2021 plan only shows it going to their entrance, which they will need to provide access to the church from this
Yes,
sidewalk.
absolutely.
But their 2021 plan does not have it going across the whole
That's right.
front.
Okay.
I guess the only question I have is are there, eventually, there's supposed to be a light.
Correct.
Are there crosswalks?
That's something that I think in the discussion of whether to have the sidewalk continue on the west side, I think it might have been just compromised to provide the crossing for the future traffic signal across National Pike at Gordon's Crossing.
Well, I'm in agreement with the previous plan that was approved, that I don't feel like it's necessary for it to extend west. I very much appreciate the connection to the east.
Right.
Because, I mean, really, you're going to no man's land on the north side of Gallatin Pike, or Nashville Pike. But they at least have connection to the intersection with that sidewalk. That was my only question.
Any other questions or discussion or feedback?
Looks amazing.
Thank you.
Jim?
And then we'll see you back in 3 weeks. Thank you. Item number 10 is St. Blaise Townhomes, final master development plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The owner and applicant request approval of a final master development plan for St. Blaise Townhomes with 41 attached residential lots on 3.44 acres, zoned MRO, multiple residential and office district, located west of St. Blaise Road and north of Nashville Pike. The owner and applicant submitted a plan that was mostly consistent with the approved PMDP. However, staff had some questions regarding the architecture. And we want to see something that's more specific to this site, and with all 4 elevations. Staff also has questions about the parking layout, specifically these angled spots here and here. I just want to make sure that they're going to meet the dimensional requirements of our parking requirements in the zoning ordinance. And those were kind of 2 major comments on this project.
We have a representative for the applicant.
Josh Gulick with Los Design. Our intent is absolutely to meet the intent of the PMDP. We'll go back and take a look at the dimensions per the code. The architecture is underway as we speak. With the resubmittal, we will be resubmitting the elevations to meet the requirements for the brick and facades. There was a question about the trees on the west side. We know that we're going to have to take a few down because the slope and the swale that's with the grading plan is just, it's not going to be possible to save those trees. We may be able to leave them up, but eventually there's a certain stretch that just will die over time. So trees will have to come down. It is not my client's wish to take out all the trees. It's going to be very much save as many trees as possible. In this plan, we do have a tree save area, and we are going back and providing a buffer. So while we may have to take down a tree here and there, and as few as possible to make that swale work, We do want to keep as many trees, and we will be planting back 65 trees along that stretch. There will be some flexibility on moving some of that buffer because of that tree save zone. If we want to enhance a portion of that property line, we could slide a few trees down and enhance a portion of that buffer. Absolutely.
So, questions?
What size trees would you be putting in?
They are right now they're code min required. So I believe 2.5-inch caliper and then the 6 foot tall evergreens.
Thank you.
So I remember this PMDP when it came through, and our concern was with the parking. So you've added parking spaces. Where are the parking spaces that you were asking about engineering? Are they added spaces, or are they the spaces in between the units and the garage? Between the street and the garage?
I think that was both a planning and engineering concern. It's close to the buffer. I don't have the pointer, but it's around the mail kiosk and then towards the southern 90-degree bend. It was those that had that we were concerned if they met the dimensions or not.
Looks like one's just clipped. And with some rework of the sidewalk, it could be easily taken care of. Is that accurate?
Yes, it may be an optical. I need to go back and check the dimensions. We'll definitely verify. We do that we have a lot of people that just clip if we put a 3-foot pie-shaped section of curb, it's just gonna continually get hit. So we generally clip that off and just provide an asphalt walkway in there. But we're happy to add it if that's what you guys think.
The ones by the mail kiosk, they look really short, but it may just, I don't have a scale, that may just be the ratio, the aspect ratio. Are they really wide spaces?
No, they should be standard parking spaces.
And like the handicap space is clipped off too. I just didn't know if that is the full. What's the standard length of a parking aisle? Is it 19 or is it 20 feet?
Our
20. Unless you're butting up against a landscape island, then it's 19. Well, 18, that's right.
So that handicap space on the end by the mail kiosk is 18 on the shortest leg? That was a question.
It should be, but
Okay. Well, I don't have the scale, so that's for engineering. Questions? Okay, well, seeing none, any other feedback? We'll see you back in 3 weeks. Thank you. Item number 11, St. Blaise Townhomes preliminary plat. Is that the same,
yes.
Project.
same project, I thought?
Yes, it's the same project, it's preliminary plat.
Okay.
So, the owner applicant requests approval of a preliminary plat with 41 residential lots on 3.44 acres, zoned MRO, multiple residential and office, located west of St. Blaise and north of Nashville Pike. Our only comment on this is just anything that gets changed on the FMDP, make it consistent with the preliminary plat. But most of our comments on the plat itself were fairly minor.
Applicant?
Josh with the Lotus. We're happy to make all edits to and address all comments from planning.
Questions?
Forward.
Thank you. We'll see you back in 3 weeks. Thanks. Item number 12 is Liberty Branch Condos, formerly Harris Lane Condos, a final master development plan.
This is a final master development plan for Liberty Branch condos, formerly Harris Lane condos, with 134 residential units on 10.10 acres zoned MU mixed-use district located at 258 Harris Lane. Staff have requested landscaping, drainage, and signage plans, as well as HPR documentation from the applicant. The property will need to be platted, and architectural elevations were submitted, and they meet the 70% brick stone requirement. And staff have just asked them to include a materials palette and materials callouts.
Thank you, Emily. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
We do.
Okay. Any discussion?
Are these for sale or rentals?
I'm not sure, actually.
It's a horizontal property regime, so they can be sold individually. So it's not like an apartment complex, but we can't control what someone does once they buy it.
They're doing fee simple lots.
No, it's
Yeah, oh,
HPR, so
HPR.
it's all one
Okay.
big lot. And they're selling the individual condos.
So
What happened from the Harris Lane condos to the Liberty Branch? Is that just a name change?
Yes.
So this FMDP is, it's in accordance with the PMDP that was approved. I believe that I was absent for an agenda meeting. I was here for a work session when the PMDP was discussed, and at that meeting, we wanted to see some changes. Can y'all bring me up to speed? What changes were made to the original PMDP? Because the complaint was that it was just a lot packed in there straight, and
If I remember correctly, we deferred the original one because of the driveway spacing.
Yes, that was one of the initial comments, and then they did move it closer, or met the spacing, which put it closer to the property line, so it met requirements.
And then in that original meeting, we also, I want to say they were showing 100% brick.
The architecture left something to be desired with the first version, and so this is consistent with what did get approved. So they came with this, with a little more variety.
And they did address the action items from the PMDP with this one.
okay.
I would just make sure that they provide, I mean, y'all already have the comment on there about the material selections and callouts. Just make sure that variety makes sense.
So is there any other discussion? In the absence of the applicant, then we'll sit back in 3 weeks then. Item number 13 is Westfield Amenity Center, final master development plan.
Emily Lang, staff planner. This is an FMDP for the Westfield Amenity Center on 1.75 acres zoned MU mixed-use district located east of Big Station Camp Boulevard and south of Oakfield Boulevard. Staff had a few comments on the site layout, landscaping plan, and the architecture that was submitted does not meet the 70% brick stone requirement. It's an alternative architecture plan, but staff believes that it's an appropriate use of materials for an amenity center. And here are some renderings of that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant?
Jason Morlock, Morlock Engineering. I agree with all staff comments. Happy to answer any questions.
Open the floor to questions. None?
So, I mean, I know it doesn't meet the 70% brick or stone requirement, which I don't necessarily care about, but it's a mixture of brick and hardy.
Honestly, I'll have to
Okay.
pass it on.
I think it
to the
is.
Civil engineer, but I can certainly pass it on. I know staff made a comment to put the percentages of materials on the plans, so on the resubmittal, that information will be on there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't answer
That's
your
okay.
question. I'll just pass it.
I think it is brick and hardy,
I
which,
believe it is, but I just don't want to speak out of turn.
The materials are written up there. I actually can't quite see what
I
they are.
can't.
I think it's board and batten, brick, veneer, So, yeah. Okay, that was my only question.
Only question I had is the slope around the pool, do those contour lines exceed a 3-to-1 slope?
No, they are a 3-to-1 slope.
Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we'll see it back in 3 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Item number 14 is 559 Pemberton Street duplex, a final master development plan.
Bill Martinez, planning staff. The owner and applicant are requesting approval for an FMDP for 559 Pemberton. This would create a duplex on a 0.17 plus or minus acre lot zoned R6. Multifamily residential isn't allowed use on the property, and the proposal meets all minimum building setbacks and bulk requirements. The engineering department did ask for a redesign of their driveway. Some other comments for this FMDP included needing to see a utility plan and ensuring that the architecture will meet the minimum of 70% brick stone requirement. And this is the architecture proposed.
Emily, can you help me get my bearings? Where is this located? I'm looking at the,
Oh, that was good, right?
oh, is it over near, like the Shalom Center?
Yes.
Is that- Okay. I know where it is. Mayor, you got it?
Yeah, it's that short street that runs off, runs parallel to Small a little bit.
I don't know about Small Street. It's just directly south of Shalom Center. Yeah, we have a representative for the applicant. Please step forward.
Yes, sir. Zach Baker with Greenlit Design, and it is just south of that. But we are in agreement with all staff comments, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
The architecture,
We have revised it, and it will be 100% brick.
100% brick, okay.
Is it one or how many is it?
Two.
Two?
It's 2-unit building.
That's right.
This is this similar in nature to the project that we looked at last week? You're doing two projects over in that neighborhood, and you had a similar lot size. Is this the same concept?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the driveway layout's kind of the same as the other?
It will be.
Okay.
That was Aaron's comment.
Because currently they're showing, I think it's 36 feet wide for the 4 parking spaces. So much like the other ones, we want to limit it to 24, 26 feet inside the right of way, and then, flare out into the spaces.
Just a repeat of what we saw last week? Different lot, okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, then we'll see it back in 3 weeks. Thank you.
Y'all.
Item number 15 is Nichols Place, Phase 2, final plat.
All right. The owner and applicant request approval of a final plat for Nichols Place Phase 2 with 30 attached dwelling units on 1.85 acres zoned MRO, multiple residential and office, located east of Rising Lane and south of Nichols Lane. The owner and applicant submitted a final plat consistent with the preliminary plat and FMDP for this project. Staff would like to note that the extension of Ferguson Boulevard will require a surety, and the extension of Duke Court will require a site surety prior to the plat being recorded. Staff had mostly minor comments on this item.
Yeah, we have a representative for the applicant.
Jim Harrison, CSDG. We're just here to, we've reviewed the comments. We're going to comply with those and get those changes made. Just here to answer any questions.
So my question is it this phase of the project which triggers the development of the Clear Lake Meadows extension down to almost to the south boundary line of this property?
It was part of previous plans that we had that showed the overall with the number of townhomes. Yeah, it's consistent with that.
So That will be constructed with this phase?
What shows where Ferguson Boulevard extends down to, that's the southern limit of where that gets extended to as part of the previous plans. That's consistent with what was approved in preliminary, approved plans for Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3, and then Phase 4. Phase 4, John, there's a future Phase 4 on this that requires a pump station and some other off-site improvements that go through the property to the south. That's when that last piece will get built. when that
Okay,
happens.
so it's not with, I'm
Not
focused
as-
on
not
this
as
road
part-
issue.
It's not a part of this phase. yet.
Okay, this is Phase 2, and there's
That's right.
2 more phases.
And the owner, the developer is looking at that right now and trying to talk to that owner about how we can make that other piece happen.
Okay. Well, this is a final plat, not a PMDP, so that's really a PMDP question. I just wasn't sure of the phasing. Any other questions, or?
Sure.
All right, we'll see none, then we'll see it back in 3 weeks. Thank you. Item number 16 is Candlewood Suites, Gallatin, an amended site plan, remove street trees.
Right. The owner and applicant request approval and amended site plan for Candlewood Suites, Gallatin, to remove the street trees within the Tulip Poplar Drive right-of-way located adjacent to 1188 Tulip Poplar Drive. Just as a reminder, it's been a minute since we've talked about this. Planning Commission approved the site plan for Candlewood Suites, Gallatin on November 14th of 2022. One of the conditions of approval was installation of street trees, tulip poplar trees within the right-of-way and a hold harmless agreement. The applicant has applied to remove that condition as part of the approval, basically. Staff has looked, and we have found no evidence of a overall street plan for Tulip Poplar. We found evidence of a grant that was applied for to the southwest, I guess, direction of that, at Belvedere Drive, but nothing for the east portion. And so that is why the applicant has applied. I don't believe that they're in the audience, but that's kind of where we are with this at this time.
Well, it's a matter of procedure. I will ask if we have a representative for the applicant. Seeing none, then we'll start discussion. I don't really understand that was a condition of approval. I don't understand why we'd be inclined to remove the street trees. I understand why the applicant asked, but I know where I would stand on this. Y'all?
Well, my question, and I know, I'm thinking back to November whenever we approved this, because what they've shown, the alternative is basically a 10-foot sidewalk, correct?
So this is the version of the site plan that we received for that meeting. So they are missing quite a few of the other conditions of approval. And so one of the conditions of approval was a 8-foot grass strip with a 6-foot sidewalk. That
Changed to.
what?
That's what it was changed to. the street
That's what it was changed to, and then the street trees. The way that I have this written, I do wish the applicant was here to kind of talk through what they're overall wanting, would be that condition stays the same. It's just the street trees would go onto their property as opposed to within that grass strip. But again, that is, since we're looking at all of it, is something that we're looking at.
Well, my next question would be, and I don't even know if it'd be answered because our assistant city attorney's not here, is are we allowed to make a condition that forces someone to do a hold harmless agreement? Because if they put the street trees there, they are in the clear zone, and they have to have a hold harmless agreement for every single tree that's in the grass strip. Is what I'm hearing. Is that correct?
Isn't that the mechanism by which they basically use the right-of-way? I mean,
Yes.
instead of having to take up space where they can construct, I guess.
Yeah, they have to submit a hold harmless agreement and liability insurance to be responsible for the maintenance and care of those trees. And should somebody hit one of those trees, that's all on the property owner, is not the city. That's why they go into those agreements for street trees. Usually what happens is developers want street trees within their own subdivisions. And some of those subdivisions already had 5-foot grass strips, and we've since shifted to more 8-foot grass strips. McCain Station is a good example of, they did 8-foot grass strips so that they could get street trees. The code does not require street trees. We've had people, I believe it was Windsong, actually came and removed street trees from their main spine road because they didn't want to do the hold harmless agreement. And like Jim said, there was exhibits of street trees within Tulip Poplar on the west side of Belvedere. We aren't aware of anything on the east side. And so I believe that's,
I distinctly want to add something to that, though, Julie.
Absolutely.
They didn't, they removed the street trees, not only, I don't know about because of the hold harmless agreement, but I distinctly remember that they had drawn a 5-foot grass strip, and when informed that they would have to put street trees on Windsong, they would have to go to an 8-foot. That changed their plans, and they said, we don't want to give up an 8-foot, we don't want to give up that much more right of way. That was one reason, because street trees are a big issue for me. I think that, I don't remember them saying that. Now, the hold harmless agreement's another issue.
Well, let's throw away the hold harmless agreement right now. Is there a proposed right-of-way on Tulip Poplar in this section? Like a width?
No, no additional width.
So we would be asking them to dedicate over and above when there's not even a proposed width, like in a major thoroughfare plan.
So,
That would be my second question to the city attorney is that allowed for us to require that?
I may be speaking a little bit out of turn here, but there is a greenway shown in this part of Tulip Poplar. I believe our current alignment has it on the north side.
On the north side, yes.
But I do think that had played maybe some element in it originally.
I think this was the original submittal that we received, and I think two of the comments that we had was the driveway spacing, which they did move, and then, as Jim was saying, that the 10-foot greenway was actually on the north side, so we required a 5-foot grass strip and 6-foot sidewalk, and then that was when the whole discussion of the tulip poplars on there, and then it got changed to an 8-foot grass strip and 6-foot sidewalk.
Have they, I know they aren't here. Have they shown a plan where they're planting them on their property?
The original landscaping plan for this, I believe, did have trees on their property. And kind of their main opposition to this has been the hold harmless agreement. This has kind of been a few months in the making. I've been working with them on this for a while. And
Still need to get us revised plans meeting the conditions of approval. So we don't have
Out of
approved
that.
plans yet.
Maybe we just need to put this off until they're here.
Well, will Latisha be at our meeting in 3 weeks?
I believe so.
Really look forward to her input, because if the hold harmless agreement and the concerns that CJ raised, if that compromises our ability to have street trees, I mean, we won't have any more street trees on projects moving forward.
I think usually street trees, people come to us wanting to do them. It's not so much us having people do them. So I don't think there's anything stopping someone from wanting to do them as long as they meet our minimum requirements.
Oh, there is a disincentive against street trees right now, that if you have street trees, you have to have an 8-foot grass strip. If you don't have street trees, you have to have a 5-foot grass strip. You're talking about a lot of square footage, and land here is sold by the square foot, not by the acre. Is it, CJ,
I mean,
design. Is
you're
that-
right. I mean, it's an accurate statement. Just singling this one development out, I mean, I would be open to removing the street trees as if they were planting them along their property line.
Now, on the other side.
On the other side, like on their property, that gets rid of the hold harmless agreement and we still get the trees. That's my opinion. And I think we're allowed to ask that.
And express that to the applicant.
That's just my opinion. I don't know about everyone else.
From my correspondence with them, that's been their perspective is they're willing to provide trees. I would assume that we would include as a condition of approval for this plan that they are tulip poplar trees. But that is
I mean,
to be seen.
it's not going to be right behind the sidewalk because I think there's a sanitary sewer line running along that edge. They're going to be pulled back quite a bit.
So I know you can't speak for the applicant, they're not here, but as best you understood what they said, maybe tell us, what is the big concern with the hold harmless? It is the fact that they have to maintain them and replace them, or is it the liability associated with a car hitting them?
I think it is kind of a mix of both. I think the liability for an unlimited amount of time is kind of their main concern, because that it seems like that's. I've talked with the developer. I've talked with the engineers on the project, and from both sides, that's been the main. They just feel like it's too much liability to introduce to themselves, and so they just don't want to.
Well, definitely look forward to Latasha being here. My concern with what you suggested is as long as they put the trees on their property, we can take them out of this and they're not street trees. But you lose the continuity because if they have the trees on their property, then down the road, they may decide, we don't want tulip poplars, we don't like the way they shed, we're gonna take these down and we're gonna put something else in their place. Or maybe they don't replace them at all. And that falls to whether planning and somebody in the office goes and enforces site plans to make sure that trees that are removed on somebody's property get put back. And that's a difficult thing to do. But certainly the continuity, this street, when it was first designed, I remember this was designed long before I ever came on the planning commission. James Robert Ramsey called me one time and said, we want to name this street. And I said, what do you suggest we name it? And I said, Pereira Drive. He said, okay, we're not going to name it that. What do you name it? And I said, Tulip Poplar Drive would be nice. It's the state tree, and we all agree that it would be really pretty if this whole drive was lined with tulip poplars. The continuity of it all the way down. But if these trees are on somebody's individual property, it might be Tulip Poplar Drive for a portion of the way and then Red Maple Drive for 400 yards and then something else on down. So I don't know. I'll get off my soapbox, but there's a lot to talk about in 3 weeks on this one because it sets a precedent for a lot of projects moving forward.
Speaking of landscaping, I know this is kind of, I mean, since we're talking about this and you brought up the fact that a tree could die and they not replace it, is there someone tasked with the city that goes around and, I mean, this sounds like a silly question. I'll circle back, but is there someone tasked to do that and then enforce it?
We have zoning enforcement, but it's one person.
Yeah.
And we do contact people when they have landscaping missing. Right now, we have a lot. We're very aware of the issues right now, especially given the rough
Storms and
winter
everything.
and the storms. So, and also we understand that the supply is low because everyone's replacing their landscaping. So we are very aware of that. That is something that we can enforce. We can send letters and contact them about updating their landscaping to meet their site plan. That is something we can hold people to. Usually it's just not on the scale. Usually it's a few a year that we have to reach out to. But this scale is just very large for a staff of our size.
Understood.
This is a rabbit hole, but I've been studying all this AI. Is that a way that AI can be leveraged to use AI to verify and check site plans with overhead aerial photography and catch those things in the future?
I'm sure at some point. I think that would be very expensive.
I think with AI is happening quicker than I'd like for it to, but because you either need another position in your the department to do this or leverage technology.
Yeah, I would like to have inspectors specifically for things like that to enhance zoning enforcement and to see that people are adhering to their site plans, yes.
Any other discussion on anything other than AI? All right. We'll see you back in a few weeks. Any other business we need to discuss?
Happy 4th, everybody, and thank you for coming on the day before a holiday. We appreciate you.
I'm happy to see the audience
Quick one.
that stayed on.
All right.